Oh, well, we have a beach. So you could sit if you're not in your
Do you
raft.
have a low chair?
Yeah, we have those plastic catamaran,
Or run back?
that. All
Bring
right,
it, ladies.
let's roll. Welcome to the Now Podcast, episode 23, Making Moves in Real Estate. Courtney and I are incredibly excited to introduce Toyin Crandell. She is a two-time best-selling author and the award-winning host of the Millionaire Money Podcast, founder of Money Mindset Shift. She has a coaching platform that has trained over 50,000 plus career professionals and business owners, helping them to end self-sabotage, create financial freedom, and a lasting legacy by unlocking the power of, wait for it, the brain.
Yes.
Her team does this through neuroscience-based financial, business, and leadership coaching. She lives with what she preaches, going from homeless and eating chocolates for dinner to multimillionaire, 11 streams of income, and multiple real estate properties in just 4 years. And finally, she's won the Success Magazine's 2023 Women of Influence Award, and her company is the verified 74th fastest growing company in Canada.
Right.
Welcome, Toyin Crandell. You get it, girl.
Thank you.
You're fire. Woo. So tell us a little bit more about being homeless and go from
Restart.
Yeah, let's start there.
Let's start at the beginning. Yeah. When we first, if you had come to me, 7 years ago, I think it was about 7 years now, and told me, Toyin, you're going to be the host of the Millionaire Money Podcast, and all the stuff you just read, running the 74th fastest growing company in Canada and all of that, I would have laughed. Back then, just straight up laughed. Like back then, I did full-time ministry work. So I was in social work. We were working with the homeless. I really, really did not think about money at all. I didn't think whether it was good or it was bad. I just never really thought about it or noticed it. We were just getting by. We were living in a tiny little basement apartment. Myself, my husband, we had a 6-month-old baby. It was so small. How people have those jokes like, you're this is so that. Like our basement apartment was so small that if you wanted to get clothing out of the closet, you had to scooch sideways to get around the bed. It was so small that we did not have a living room or dining area. It was like kitchen, hallway, bedroom. The hallway was our living room, and our treasured possession was our 3 bookshelves that had all the knowledge that I never thought I really, I didn't read those books for the money or to grow or to do any of that stuff. I just enjoyed reading. And so my wake-up call, back then I was extremely happy. I still am, thank God. But I was super happy. We had a lot of joy. We did amazing work. We were changing lives. So I was just like, who the heck needs money? Until December 2016, my husband was he brought food for me, and I'm eating food in the bedroom. I'm feeding the baby, and he's not in the room. Now, remember, I said we don't have a dining area or a living room. So I'm like, hey, babe, where are you? We normally eat together in the room. And he goes, oh, I'm just eating in the kitchen. I'm like, come over. So he comes into the bedroom, and I'm like, what are you eating? And he says chocolates. And I laughed because my hubby has a sweet tooth. So I was like, ha, ha, ha. Because, it's Christmas time. Like, ha, ha, ha. What are you really eating? And he's like, Toyin, I'm eating chocolates. And I was so confused. And the chocolates, the sad part was the chocolates he was eating weren't even chocolates we'd bought. We had been gifted them for Christmas. Because, Christmas time, everyone gives everyone Lind chocolates. And he says to me, Toyin, I've been giving you we've been out of food for about a week. I've been giving you the rest of our food because you're feeding the baby and you guys need food. and I've been eating chocolates this entire week. And that was the moment that, like, I realized that money even matters. You know, it was in that moment that I realized, like, you can't, as happy as you are, as joy-filled as you are, you can't buy groceries with joy, right? You can't pay your, back then I had rents. You can't pay your rent. You can't put down a down payment with peace. And it was that moment that I was like, okay, I got to get serious about money. So I did. You know, I found my first coach, got some business strategy. You know, my hubby was like, we kind of running an expensive hobby out here. So a lot of realtors, that's what they do. They just run expensive hobbies. They're not taking it seriously. And so I start running the business. Michelle's like, start running the business. And yep. And we have our first $7,000 month in February of 2017. And I just remember being like, we made it. We made it, y'all. Like, we will never be poor again. Like, nothing can stop me. And right after we hit 7K in a month, I had $0. And then the next month, like 500. And it was literally nothing until the 7,000 was fully finished. And then we had another $5,000 month. And then nothing until it was fully finished. So by October of 2017, we were back at we were less than ground zero. By October 2017, we actually had to email friends and family asking for help financially to pay our rent. And I just remember being like, this doesn't make sense. Like, if this happened last year when I didn't know anything, I understand that. But I looked over my 2017 and I'm like, I know how to make money because we did in February. I know I'm Nigerian. So we work hard. Like, if anyone knows, if you have a Nigerian friend, you know we do not play. We show up and we get the job done. So I'm like, I know I worked the entire year. I worked my butt off and I have nothing to show for it. And it just so happened that in the month of 2017, October, I happened to have a conversation with someone that completely opened my eyes to what was happening. So this person wasn't trying to coach me. He wasn't trying to do anything. It was a personality assessment. I was in a leadership program and he just worked for a personality organization. He did this assessment for Fortune 500 CEOs. And, you know, it was kind of like, okay, Toyin, here's your test, 200 questions. He's trying to talk to me about my personality. And he's very like, you know, simple. He wasn't really not trying to make a point. He was just like, so I've reviewed your EI and your UL and your da-da-da. And he kept saying, like, you have a very unique personality. And I'm like, okay, sir, everybody has a unique personality. Like, we are all different, right? And I'm like, you should know this. This is your job. But he kept saying it. And then at one point, I think he could tell that I was just like, so what? And he goes, I don't think you understand. And he says this sentence that blew my mind. He goes, Toyin, based on your UL, IP, EI, whatever, you have the potential to have global impact. However, you likely never will because of two factors. That was my face right there.
Oh, yeah? What's this?
Like, what are the two factors? Like, what are you talking about? And he goes, well, the first thing is you're highly service oriented. And I'm like, of course I am. Like, you know, he goes, you've probably worked in social work. I'm like, absolutely I have. 9 years at a women's shelter, 5 years at a shelter for the mentally ill. Like, the resume of social work goes deep. And he's like, listen, like, I'm not trying to argue with you. He's like, it's not a bad thing that you're service oriented. He goes, the problem is you are also, so number two, you're demotivated by money. Now, I had never heard that phrase in my life, demotivated by money. But the moment he said that, so I'm Christian, and this is where, like, God just started to talk to me. So he goes, you are demotivated by money. And I just hear God speak to me. And God was like, Toyin, you're not just demotivated by money, you're afraid of money. And I was like, what? I never thought about any of this. And what God showed me, so like I mentioned, I'm Christian, and one of my top values is honoring God first, like God, my family, and then anything else. And he showed me how I had this fear that if I have too much money, I would put money above God, which I did not want to do. Like, he is my number one. So he shows me in this, you know, when you're talking to someone, but like he's talking to you, he shows me how my fear of having more money and money taking me away from God was actually causing me to underplay and underserve and show up less than in my business. And then he says to me, but Toyin, I called you to business. So if I am telling you to run a business and the business is supposed to earn money, but your fear of money is keeping you from running the business and earning money, guess what? You have now put your fear of money above what I've called you to do, which is run business. So God was like, you've pretty much done the very thing that you're afraid of doing. You've put money above me. And I was mind blown in that moment, just like, what? And immediately I got mad. Like, I legit got angry. You know, I finished the conversation with him and thank you very much for this assessment. This was great. Hang up the phone. And I remember I had talked to him on my way to a parking garage. So I'm right in front of the parking garage and I just sat there. And I was like, if money has schooled me and my family in this way, I'm going to be a millionaire in a year. I'm going to prove that money has nothing on me. Like, money can't keep me from doing what God has called me to do. The fear of money itself. So I'm like, I'm going to be a millionaire in a year. I didn't hit the goal in a year, but I did hit the goal in 3 years. Which I'm very, very, very grateful for. But that's kind of where I started. And the first thing that I did, which is what led to my book, Money Mindset Shift, which is what led to my core training that I do, was the first thing I did was, okay, how do I get rid of this fear of money and all the other limiting beliefs that I had about money so that I would be comfortable with having more than enough? Because most people are comfortable with only just enough, or they're actually more comfortable in struggle, which is where I was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what did you do to eliminate that?
Okay. Let's go. What did it look like? So in the month of, this was all in October 2017. It was a wild month. So I have this conversation. I have just sent this email to friends and family asking for financial help. And I decide, okay, I'm shifting my finances. And what did I do? I actually answered a series of exercises. It wasn't, back then it wasn't exercises to me. It was just questions. I literally prayed and I was like, okay, God, help me to see what are my limiting beliefs about money. So like one of the questions that I asked, for example, was just what do I believe about money that's not true? Now, here's the funny part of this, guys. When you believe something, you think it's true. So yeah, for most people, when you ask the question, what do I believe about this thing that's not true? It actually takes a level of humility to hear the answer. Because most of us, we come in guns blazing. No, this is the way it always is. This is how it's always been. And one of the principles that Stephen Covey, that I learned from Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, is the power of worldviews and perspectives. And I don't know if you guys have ever read that book, but in the book, he shows that picture of like a young woman with a hat on. But if you look at the picture from a different way, you see an old woman and the hat and all the stuff is actually wrinkles on her face. And I remember that was the first time I had ever experienced a different perspective shift in my own eyes, right? Where I was like, whoa, once you see the young woman, you can't unsee her, you know? And that's what I did that month, was I started just writing out the beliefs that I had that were false about money. And even when I was like, I think this is true, but if it's coming to mind, I'm just going to put it down. And then once I had it on paper, I was like, okay, God, what do I do with this? How do I deal with this? And he literally walked me through this process. So at this point, it's our diamond effect process. It's been trademarked. It's dope. It's awesome. But this is a process, the diamond effect, because it takes your coals and makes them into diamonds. It takes those limiting beliefs, those things that created the worst parts of our story. And this process literally helps us to help our clients convert those beliefs into the things that's like, that's why I won. You know, everybody was telling me I'm too short, or I speak too much, or I don't speak up enough, and that's why I won. And so I just did this question and answer process. And what happened? So I didn't know it would become a thing, okay? This is just me by myself praying and talking to God and being like, I got to change the way I'm thinking. And the next month, November 2017, we earned more in that month than we had earned the entire year of 2016. And I didn't even notice it. It was my husband that like noticed the number, and he was like, Toyin, what did you do? Are you doing a different offer? Are you doing a new business? He's like, what on earth just happened? And I just said to him, like, I don't know. The only thing I know because I hadn't changed my business, I hadn't changed my offer, anything. I said, the only thing I know that I did last month was I did this thing where I sat down with God and I wrote out all these questions and answers about my brain and money and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, whatever you did, keep doing it.
Wow.
So
it's working.
It's working. And I did. And we started actually teaching our clients, because back then I used to coach people on how to be debt free, because I was debt free and I had figured out how to become debt free. And so I was like, I wonder what would happen if my clients did this process, because I noticed that sometimes we would help someone become debt free and then they would go and just take on more debt. It was like debt was their comfort zone. Or, you know, people would do all these different things, pay it off, scale, and then they just go backwards. Or back then we were helping people increase income with a little bit of the strategy that I had learned. And they would go from like, Toyin, I'm at $3,000 a month and I'm not making enough. And we'd help them make $5,000 a month. And they'd still be like, it's still not enough. They were still in struggle. And I'm like, what happened to this extra $2,000 that's coming in? And I started to say, okay, what if I introduce to my clients this principle or this concept of getting comfortable and okay with more than enough, with being a multimillionaire, with scaling your business, but not just scaling your business so you have all that money there, scaling your business so that you can enjoy personal freedom. So that money is actually going to work for you. So we introduced that into the stuff. We started training, and literally that's when things blew up, because our clients blew up. We had a client, I remember, that came to us and her goal was to earn $2,000 a month. And that was the goal. She had teenage boys, so she had lived life. And for a long time, that had been her goal. I just want to earn $2,000 a month consistently. And when she came in, by the time she was done working with us after 2 years, she had earned over $250,000. So it's just like, there's such a way to change how you're thinking so that you're able to receive and receive without the constant grind. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to like not talk too much, because I want to hear what y'all want to hear. Let's go.
Well, I just think it's great. I think, like, backtracking a little bit when you were talking about being demotivated by money and the whole mental mind shift. Mm-hmm. I think even for me, just having started a corporation was a bit of a mind shift, in the sense that it was like, okay, this is not my money. I need to be a good steward.
That's right.
Of my company's money. And I feel like I'm taking that from there to here. And I'm also thinking, I need to sign up with you. I'm like, in everything that you're saying.
It's legit. And I think, especially for those of us that don't start off, like, you're not born into the family business. So sometimes we come into business and we're amazing at what we do, but we're not good in business, the business of business. And that's something that I really had to learn, was like, I came into business, and in the beginning, I treated my business like it was my charity.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would run the business and it was like, oh, okay, you can't pay the invoice. It's okay. And I wouldn't follow up with the invoices, or I wouldn't want to do this, or I wouldn't do that. When you talk about marketing, like marketing, sales, a lot of us, when you're not, once again, you didn't grow up in the family business where marketing and sales is not a constant conversation. We get to that part of business and we're like, I just want to do the work. I just want to serve my clients. I just want to do this part. But one thing I tell my clients all the time is it doesn't matter how amazing your product is or your service is. If we don't get good and comfortable and can swim and enjoy ourselves in the world of marketing and sales, those people who actually need what we have don't ever get access to it. And so it's a disservice to our clients to say, I'm going to be amazing at serving you, but I'm not going to learn how to actually get in front of you and get you to know the transformation that you can have if you step in and work with me.
Mm. I'm thinking about, I bet you've read that book, The Psychology of Money.
Actually, no.
No? Have you read it? No. Oh my gosh.
I know. Right. My husband has it. My husband has the book on the but I remember seeing it, but I haven't read it. It's one of those ones that's like on my list.
Yeah. So my husband started it last night. That's
wow.
I conversations this morning. He was up reading it, fell asleep. I said, hey, because it's been on my wish list. And I'm like, can you start that book? Because I'm in 3 other books right now. So anyways, this morning he said he loves it. He said it's all about, you know, what was happening in the world and your circumstances for growing up. So like depression or, you know, whatever you were around at that time. So I was like, oh man, that's going to get deep.
Yeah.
Which, you know, you talk about the neuroscience around that with your relationship with money. So like, and then breaking beliefs.
Just to agree with that, you know, a lot of people, so we have 2 parts to our brain. We have our logical brain and then we have our subconscious brain. And a lot of people think that your logical brain runs the show, right? So your logical brain is your prefrontal cortex. This is the part of your brain where you set goals. You're like, okay, this year, this is what I'm going to accomplish, and that's what I'm going to do. And we think that in setting these goals, it's like done. It's written in stone. And what we don't realize is there's this second part of our brain that actually has a greater impact on our logical brain than the logical brain has on it. And what do I mean? I mean the part of our brain that is influenced by our upbringing, what we've seen and experienced in life, so our environment, teachers, mentors. I remember coaching a client where she was actually a phenomenal business woman. She ran a company. It was doing very well. She had she changed the story in her family, but she was riddled with guilt. She was not happy. She was weighed down. And I remember talking to her and she was doing our program and unpacking why she truly was like, she felt so much guilt, and the guilt was centered around her children. She felt like, you know, I'm always away from them. And then she said what was happening is every single day her children would like wail and throw all these tantrums when she was going into her home. She even worked from home, but going into her home office, she's like, it's like I have to peel them off of my leg. Like, she's like, it's just every single morning I'm coming into work and I feel horrible. I feel like I'm abandoning my family. Okay. And we start unpacking it. And one of the things that came up was that her mom was a stay-at-home mom. So the model she had growing up was that and she loved her mom. Her mom was a phenomenal mother. So the model she had was that growing up, the way to be a good mom was to stay at home. So she had already been like, I'm doing all this work so I can be at home. So she worked from home. But the second level to that was the way to be a good mom was to be with the children almost 24/7. So this internal belief for her created this discrepancy between her reality and her dream. And so the fact that she had to work meant she was not a good mom. And because she felt the internal guilt about not being a good mom already, it just felt like, I have children. I have a 1-year-old, a 4-year-old, and an 8-year-old, right? So there's the little bits of like, oh, okay, I want to sit with you all day, mommy. I love you so much, right? So there's always going to be that the children just want you with them all the time. But it's different when it becomes the like sorrow every time you're leaving. And I remember talking to her and just giving her a different reference. So we did this work of like unpacking the guilt through our diamond effect process. But then I was just talking to her about, can I just share a couple of other references with you? This is the power of what our brain sees. So for me, growing up, my mom was an amazing mom. She had 5 daughters. We all love her. We all have amazing relationship with her. She is a lawyer. She runs 2 different shelters. So one is a transitional home for abused women, and she runs another shelter. She is a marriage coach. She is a pastor's wife. They have like 14 churches they've planted. She's an author. I don't know what this woman doesn't do. And growing up, she had her own, like she still has her own law practice, but even in Nigeria, because we migrated over, even in Nigeria, she had her own law practice. So she was at her law practice, and then she'd come home, and then we'd see her, and we still all had such an amazing connection and relationship. So the model that I had was, you can be a killer businesswoman and have an amazing home life. So because that was modeled to me, it wasn't even a thought to me with my children that I can work and you guys are going to be fine and happy and we're all going to be fine and happy. And so like, I kind of just relived that same model. And just talking to her, just even showing that client the possibility, like to her brain, it was impossible to be happy and a working woman with a family. And just seeing it, she was like, whoa. So that's available. And then your brain gets to work around, okay, if that's possible, how can I create that for my family? Because to her, the only way out was to shut down her business. You get that? It is so, and what's really interesting about the way that our brain impacts our decisions is you don't see it. So you think that the decisions you're making, so going back to that logical and subconscious part of your brain, we will make decisions and then we'll give ourselves from the subconscious brain and we'll give ourselves a logical reason. So for example, for her, she could have said, okay, I'm going to shut down this business. Why? Not because I feel guilt, because I haven't seen modeled in front of me that it's possible for me to be happy and have my family and have my business. But she would say something like, I'm shutting down the business because I never seem to get the right staff members and the business is just totally draining me. Yeah. So we'll literally give ourselves the logical reason to do or not do the very thing we're afraid of. I'll give you one more example. I'll put myself on the table. So back when I had this fear of money, every time our business started doing well and we started having money come in, I would go and pray and I would feel like God said, and I literally remember having meetings with my staff team. My staff team back then was like 1 volunteer administrator. But I remember I would come back from like a 3-day retreat, prayer retreat, and I'd be like, I feel like God is saying that we need to shut that down. And I would shut down the most successful part of our business. I did that like 2 or 3 different times. That one's really working. I didn't say that's really working. We should shut it down. I would give a logical reason. I think we need to shut that one down because it's taking so much more time than this other thing that we're doing. So maybe this is going to be the thing that gets really successful. And I remember in that moment I told you guys about where God was like, Toyin, you're actually afraid of money. He literally reminded me of that example. And he said, in those moments where you were coming back and telling your team, we need to shut it down, it wasn't because the Holy Spirit told you to shut it down. It was because fear came up and you decided to shut it down. And that's the power of like what's happening behind the scenes. But once you learn how to see it, so like for me, I do my diamond effect process every year because I know that every single year our company is growing by the grace of God. That's why we are on the fastest growing companies list. And every single year that you set a new goal and you set a bigger goal, there's going to be limiting beliefs that come up around it. And so you just need to know how to see them, shift them, and then you run.
See them, shift them, and then run.
That's right.
That down. That's my number one.
That's right.
So the coaching business is obviously incredibly successful. I'd like to learn a little bit more about your 11 streams of income and real estate specifically.
Yes. So like I've mentioned, we have 11 different streams of income, and I'm trying to see if I can find to share with you guys what the list of them are, because then I can just spit them off for your listeners, but I don't think I have it written down. Right. Hold up. I know where I have it. I'll pull it up for you guys. I will pull it up. So I'll go over what the 11 streams of income are. And then I'll tell you guys the one that has been our top favorite one so far. I have it somewhere. I know I'm in the right place.
Is that description based on your favorite because of the financial reward and emotional collectively?
The description would be favorite based on financial reward, and emotional, no, actually. Because emotionally, I love my coaching and speaking. I'm a keynote speaker. Keynote speaking, and so the income from keynote speaking is great, but the emotional reward of seeing people's lives like change in front of me when I do a keynote speech, and like the light bulbs start going off, and then people will like email me months later, like, I heard you speak and I did this and then this shifted, and I'm like, wow. Keynote speaking is definitely my favorite for the emotional reward, but for the financial reward, where I ain't got to do all this traveling and doing and da-da-da-da-da, let me tell you, I'll save it. Did I already say it's real estate? I think I already said it's real estate. It's real estate. The financial reward is real estate. All right. So 11 streams of income. So what we have are active business, real estate properties, royalties so active business is kind of like the core coaching company that we run. Royalties, because I'm a worship leader. I was a worship leader for 15 years. And then I'm also a 2 times best-selling author. So we have books on Amazon that have been selling since 2019 very consistently. So royalties from that. And just in case anyone listening to this podcast, maybe you're doing real estate, but you also have a music thing on the side. One thing I want to say to anyone listening who does any sort of music, do you?
No, I was telling her that I've seen you get down on Instagram.
Yes.
I've seen her get down with her group. So
let's go. So any of y'all listening and you do any sort of music, like one of the things I notice with a lot of music people is they don't register their songs. So they release all these amazing tracks and everyone's singing it and it's going all over the place, but you don't have it registered. So you don't get any royalty from it. And I'm like, I just don't understand. But it's, once again, the difference between being very good at what you do and taking the time to learn the business of what you do. So anyway, we have royalties from that. Speaking and workshops is because that's separate from the active coaching that we do. Dividend income from investments that we've made, capital gains income, stocks and mutual funds, and then profit income through passive flips. So out of all of these, like I said, real estate would be the top one for us. I always do the disclaimer, everyone can have different experiences and it depends on you knowing how to do real estate well. But when you know how to do real estate well, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer.
What has worked for you specifically? Like, what did you get started doing in real estate and where did you build up to?
Like, okay, you guys are going to laugh at me because I'm sure on your podcast and just in general, when I talk to real estate folks, there's so many things you can do. And there's like a lot of excitement around it. So people do like all this, like I'm developing this land and I've got this many doors and da-da-da-da. I'm going to tell y'all right quick. I am the calmest, simplest real estate person you've ever met. I am like, I want boring real estate that just makes me money. And I can serve people and I can offer an amazing place for them to stay, but there's no stress, there's no nothing around it. So we started with single family homes. We actually stumbled into it. We simply purchased a new property that we were moving into. We had our other one. We said, should we sell it? Should we rent it? Let's rent it. And then we were like, oh my gosh, this actually works. Like if you are able to buy it right, the numbers make sense, and you're making passive income. Then I started to read. So we were actually doing that. I started to read Robert Kiyosaki's, the OG, getting started, and just the passive income. And one of the things I knew was that financial freedom. So for those who are listening, financial freedom isn't debt freedom. Financial freedom isn't just a high income. Because sometimes people have a high income, they think they're financially free, but you lose your job and you're back in the rat race. So financial freedom is when your passive income exceeds your monthly expenses. And so when we started to see, oh my gosh, this thing actually produces passive income, then we were like, okay, great. How else can we leverage it? And so we just bought a couple more properties, and then converted one of them into a multifamily. And from there, that's been our real estate strategy. Like I say it this way, I'm not in a rush to buy anything. I'm very, very calm. But then when I see an amazing deal that's ridiculous and ain't nobody else seen it, or it just came up, I'm like the first person at their door. So I'm just super calm. And then all of a sudden I'm like, hey, everybody, we're packing into the car. We're driving 2 hours away. We're going to check out this house because I just saw it come on the market. It's amazing. And offer in, accepted. Okay, done. Boom. Like that's how I do it. I'm like super calm. And then all of a sudden I'm on, we buy it. And then I'm back to chill.
Great. I love how she doesn't call herself a real estate investor, just a real estate person.
Yeah.
A very calm.
I just have fun with it.
Exactly. Well, I think that's great. Because so many realtors, we've talked about this before, don't invest in real estate. They help all their clients build wealth through real estate, and then they don't do the same for their families.
Yes.
Of it.
Exactly. It's like you're dancing around the fire, but you're not going into it for yourself. And it's such a wake-up call, because the truth is, the commissions you make as a realtor is still active income. It's still the work. It's still the rat race. And it's the stuff you do with the money that you're earning from your commissions that is actually what's building it up, so you don't have to keep doing that for the rest of your life.
Yes, exactly. Amen. Get off the treadmill.
To that. Okay, so for those of our listeners that want to plug into your services, can you tell them how they can tap into what you have to offer?
Absolutely. So for any of you guys who are listening to this, and if you want me to come as a keynote speaker and just blow the minds of the people that you love and the people that you serve, then you want to find me at toyincrandell.com. toyincrandell.com. And if you want a financial shift for yourself, whether you're a business owner, you're a career professional, you're a realtor, you're a broker, whoever you are, you want to find me at moneymindset.shift.ca. moneymindset.shift.ca. Now, can I give a little gift to your listeners?
Yes.
I just tell them about this. This is a surprise. But here's a little surprise. For any of you guys who are listening right now to the Now podcast, and you decide to come and approach my team and you want to work with us, if you end up doing our Money Mindset Shift program, you get a $250 off coupon just because you're coming from the Now podcast. The only condition is you got to tell us you're coming from the Now podcast. If you don't tell us, then you don't get a discount. Okay, so that's my little gift to your listeners.
And is it like a certain thank you, by the way?
Yes,
we appreciate that. Is it like a certain length of time that the program, or just so we can let them know?
The Money Mindset Shift process itself takes about 8 weeks. Why? Because you ain't got all this time to make your money begin to work for you. You don't want to take 2 years to figure this thing out. So we do 8 weeks of like intensive 3 steps to what we do. The first step is your brain. So we figure out what are the limiting beliefs about money that have been slowing down your progress, and we shift them. And we use our diamond effect process. Then the second step that we do is an increasing income plan. So we have both business coaching and career coaching. We will talk marketing. We will talk speaking to your avatar. We will talk for business. We talk client fulfillment, operations, HR. Like, you're able to ask questions into all of these things because we've helped multiple people build multi-million-dollar businesses. Organizing your business so that your business is working for you. If the person listening is a career professional, then we actually take your resume and we soup it up for you and we coach you through interviews. Like, we are like the full stop on increasing your income. And then the third step that we step into is your financial freedom plan. And this is where we really get to geek out and we say, okay, what do you do? How do you organize the money that you're making so that money goes and has babies? That money begins to actually work for you and produce some more money.
Lots of babies. Lots of babies.
Listen, there's the thing. I didn't want to have any children. I'll have all kinds of your babies.
Let your money go and have all the children.
Like, I'll have quadruplets to him. Like, no,
like that.
Love it.
So that's what we do in a money mindset shift. And like I said, mention that you are coming from the Now podcast, and you will be getting $250 off of our service.
Perfect.
That's great. Wow. Thank you so much for chatting with us today. I have taken so many notes. Really excited and motivated by all that you've done. We, of course, saw you in Success Magazine and we're just so inspired.
Oh my gosh, I should have asked. That's so dope.
Oh, yeah. No, I went through and I was like, will you please
join us on our podcast?
It has been a blast. It has been an honor. And I'm so grateful for you guys having me come on here and share my story. And I really hope that it inspires many of the people who are listening to your podcast to just multiply, not because of ourselves, not just because of the money, not just because of the numbers, but because money matters for your family. Money matters for the people who look up to you. And money matters for you to be able to give back to the community and multiply impact through our community and genuinely make the world a better place.
You've motivated these two our entrepreneurs. You've given me goosebumps like 3 times. So job well done. Thank you so much. Yes. And this couldn't have been any better. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Toyin. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Bye, Courtney. Bye, Michelle.
Sign it.
Bye. Thank you.